This time on Captain Chaos's laboratory, we're going to be working on the Disney Village Light Up City Hall from Disney. And it's a very detailed piece. The box is left to your imagination, but it's a very detailed piece inside the box at least. Anyhow, when you plug it in, which the plug is right there on the back, I'll show you how detailed it is before we start tearing into this thing. There's the front with Jiminy Cricket. There's the left, the right, the top, and the back, which is upside down, but it's fine. You get the point. And the bottom, which has this seam, so we can try and get inside. I can see how they put it together. There's a body casting, and then they inserted the windows, the door frames, the balcony, because there's big seams, like really big seams. But not a problem. Sometimes that helps in locating ways to repair. Anyhow, on the bottom here, where is my... right there. I'm going to use this to tap. You can hear how it changes. Anyway, this white seam is actually glue. I can chip it out. We're going to spend the next umpteen hours chiseling out this resin glue. I found sometimes using heat isn't always the greatest because the heat causes the resin to become sticky and then re-adhere. So I'm going to see what I can get out with just it being air temperature and using some different tools to chisel or break out the glue seam. This is a porcelain house, so we definitely want to be careful with it. This might take a really long time. And the reason they do this is you're not supposed to repair these things. But patience, if you have time, you can repair almost anything. Not everything, unfortunately. Not everything is repairable. See if I can find another weak spot in here. Is that a weak spot right there? You can see how much has been done so far. Right there. I might actually have to use heat because now it's really, really hard. I'm also trying to see if there's any more weak spots in this where I can punch a hole through. What I was doing is I was just tracing the seam. The owner of this piece actually removed the bottom completely. I was tracing the seam, and when I was tracing it, the tip of the X-Acto knife went in. That's when I realized it's what kind of glue they used. Department 56 uses a similar type on their older pieces, which is as hard as the ceramic. That's the problem with it. So, like I'm doing now, I'm just poking around with the tip of the razor knife. And I'm trying to see if there's any more weak spots in the seam. I found a weak spot, but I broke my tip off inside of it. Let's see if I can get my broken piece out. Okay, so I'm showing you how this is done. probably going to pause the camera for a bit while I do this, just for the fact this is going to take some time. But just go around it, have a couple of different tools. I have small screwdrivers that are flatheads or blades. I have a spudger that comes to a point that's a little thinner than this groove, and it's more rigid than the flexible ones. And of course I have a razor knife, and I have more blades if I break another one. And I have a heat gun right over there, which I might try in a minute. But first, I'm going to see if I can, where this other weak spot is, see if I can get that to clean up with something like this. And if I can, then we'll go from there. But the reason it's here is that it doesn't light up, and I don't know what it's supposed to look like. Normally, the pieces will have a picture on the front that's lit, and that's why I said the box is just a gray box with Disney symbols and then a stick-on picture what this house looks like, like it's sitting here. If it was on in the picture, you wouldn't be able to see it anyway. So, but yeah, I'm going to, hey, I got my broken piece out. So there are weak spots right there. And you can tell the seam gets thicker and then really thin. So of course this broke in the thin spot right here. But I got the broken piece of that out. Which to me is a good thing, so I don't rub my finger down it and slice it open. So, oh yeah. Bear with me for a little bit. I'll be back in just a few. I'm going to play with this some more and see what we can do about getting the bottom. As soon as I get this open, we'll take a look at the inside and see what it's going to take to fix the lighting issue. To see if it's an actual lighting issue or if maybe this port broke, which is your 3-volt power port. And just in case I didn't mention it, because I'm pretty sure I didn't, 3 volts DC 300 milliamps. My power supply is set to put 3 volts out of here, and of course the power supply only produces the power that this thing draws. So once I do it, I can tell you exactly what this thing is drawing once we either fix it or find the problem and repair it. Which I guess would be the same as fixing, but we'll see. We'll get this thing worked on, and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, we're back, and I'm going to tell you this is very difficult to open, and don't follow that white seam, and I'm going to show you in a second. The white seam has an overlap on the acrylic body. The bottom is resin. Or certainly acrylic body, geez, ceramic. Ended up cutting a hole in it. And even though I was getting chipped, look at how much there's glue right here. You'll never get it off. This was starting to chip. So I decided to cut a hole, and I picked the right spot right there. And I don't know if you can see what the problems are, but that resistor is burnt and that resistor is split open on the back side. It might be kind of difficult to see. You can see the blackness on those wires, and that resistor is black. So that's why it doesn't work. This thing got really, really hot. I don't know if it got hot because there was too much power put through it, since there's only 3 volts, or if it just got hot from age and constant use. But we definitely need to replace the resistors. I can't tell by the size, but they're either 1 or 2 watt resistors. So this is 2 watt. This is 1 watt. Which means they're big fat resistors. But I want to check the power that's coming, the resistance on the power to see if these resistors actually have some resistance left. It's coming up as 20 ohms. I'm going to peel the burnt tape off the burnt resistor. I'm hoping not all the lights are burned out. There's a lot of LEDs in here. And they also use LEDs with heat shrink to create fiber optics. But when you cut the bottom of this, well, let me get this peeled off. It makes a hell of a mess. I actually had to vacuum everything up. The bottom is all resin, and the sides are porcelain. and I used micro bits. You can use a RotoZip or something similar. I just used a drywall Sawzall roto bit in a drill versus in the tool, so it spins slower, so I have more control. And I only went halfway in, and then I went deeper till it cut through. I have the piece over there, so I can glue it back in. Alright, let's see if this one has any resistance. It got really hot. It started remelting the solder. Well, that one still says it has resistance of 30 ohms. So either they're too high or all the LEDs are burned out. I'm going to try and peel the glue off of the incoming power. Whoever made this for Disney, because Disney didn't make it themselves, wanted to ensure that you never, ever got inside this thing. I used heat, and the heat was melting the resin pan as well as the glue. And I'm talking about that seam that I started trimming out. So I did end up using heat, but after literally an hour of watching the base distort and then start chipping, I decided to drill a small hole and take a look inside. And I saw it was hollow. And that's when I decided to just saw from the edge in a little bit. And even my sawing is at an angle, and that wasn't intentional. That's just because I was letting the drill follow its own path in case there was a circuit board in here. I didn't want to force through anything, just in case. Got it. Trying to get the glue off the pins, which there it is. So I can check the incoming power pins. Because if these resistors got hot, it may have damaged the incoming power off of this. It looks okay, because I've never seen a resistor get so hot that it melts the solder. That's crazy. Alright, so all the wires are soldered, jointed, good. I need to check the one that got hot and melted to the wires and see if it burned through the wires or if they're exposed. Looks like it just melted the insulation. I don't have any punctures. No punctures. And this doesn't make any sense to me. Looks like it's a reverse code. I don't know if it says the code on the bottom of the box. Oh, center hot. Okay. Alright, well let's plug it back in. Do some poking around. I know the resistors are bad, they are going to get changed, but I want to poke around and see if I'm getting power through the resistors and then what power I'm getting to see if the LEDs are going to light. And maybe they were lighting, but they're really dim. So I want to, probably helps if I plug it into the spot where the plug is. And sure, 3 volts. There is no light inside. And my machine is showing that there is no power draw. So let's make sure we get power coming through the connector. Yep, 3 volts coming through. 3 volts at the first resistor. 3 volts. So I am getting juice. I'm getting juice into the circuit. I'm just not getting any light. So the resistors is burnt. It looks like it's a 1 watt, and the one that's just cracked and slightly burnt is a 2 watt based on their size, since there are 2 different sizes. Why do we not get any power on the inside? So I'm going to see if it burned the lights. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to get off. No. I don't do that yet. So I'm going to cut the power wire that goes to this red wire here. That goes to all these other red wires. There's a junction right there. So I'm going to cut that wire right where the resistor is melted. And so we'll get some. Get some fresh wire. I feel like the wire is broke. There we go. Yeah, the wire's broke. Guess we don't need this at the moment. And I'm going to turn the power way down because these have a resistor, which means that too much juice will fry them. I'm going to turn it down to 1.7 volts. I'm going to try and get this onto the ground side here. I might just have to hold it so I don't touch anything else. There we go. I'm getting no light. That's a bad thing. I'm going to do it now on the other side with the other resistor that has exposed wire that I can clip onto. And I'm going to go back to the ground, or the return negative. Yeah. I have no light. We go up to 2 volts. No light. No light. So either there's something else inside this glue pack right here, or all the LEDs burned out, which does happen. It's not common, but it does happen. I was hoping it wouldn't come to that, because this is going to be quite a pain to put back together, to take care of. So I'm going to pry the glue pack out next and see if there's anything in it. From what I could see, it looked like the glue here was just to hold the wires against the back of the body of this to keep them from flopping around. But there might be something inside of it. There might be another resistor or some other component. go. And there's not. It's literally just all the wires are soldered together. So this is the part for the glue pack. It's just covering this ball of solder and holding, what, 5? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red wires together. Those red wires go to the 5 LEDs. Oh yeah, and that LED is burnt. I can see that LED now that I've moved the glue pack. LED's burnt. That one looks okay. That one looks okay. That one's burnt. My God, are they burnt? They're melted. That one looks okay. That one looks okay. Whew, Nelly. Did they ever burn? Holy smokes. Which is strange because they're wired in parallel. I should get some light. But, God dang. These suckers melted. Like, melted. I wonder if the wrong power supply was plugged into this. The LEDs didn't explode, but they went from clear to black, and it literally melted the wires going into them. This thing got hot. Like, no joke. I'm gonna try this one more time with the juice going directly to the components inside, because I really want to check something. So 2 volts. I want to see if any of them start glowing on me. They may not. All right. I'm surprised my machine doesn't pick up any draw. I should have something. Nothing. Well, in order for this to be repaired, I'm gonna try and show you on the camera. I also don't know what color it is, so I'm gonna have to Google this thing to see what color the lights are. I'm assuming they're orange. Get the glue out of here. There we go. Okay, go to a wider beam. Let's see. Probably won't be able to see very well, but that resistor right there is black on the inside. But what I'm trying to see, if you can see from that, resistor, geez, diode, LED. If you look at the LED, which is that clearish thing, kind of center of your screen now. If you look down, you see that shadow, looks like a line. That's a metal bar that is cast into the housing. And each of the LEDs that are in here, see that one? That one's black. That LED exploded. Each of these LEDs has a metal bar cast from the top of the house down to hold them in place so they don't, under gravity, sink to the bottom of the house. Well, my hand don't fit in there. So I'm going to have to literally cut this whole bottom out. And it's a messy, loud, and slow process. And I'm going to have to replace every single LED, including the 2 that do the fiber optics. I can't see the fiber optic connection because it's inside of heat shrink, and then they fiber optic the heat shrink to the LED. But since I sent power directly to it at 2.5 volts, which is the maximum an orange light can take, there's no light. So I'm going to go with, they're probably blackened as well. So this house, if you have this house and it dies, I'm not going to lie, this is going to be an extremely tedious process. And if you don't want to do it, maybe just bore a hole in the center with a drill bits or a step bit, stick a light bulb in it. I wish I could be, that's going to be your easiest. And I would not stick in a 120 volt light bulb. I'd stick in a little 3 volt bulb like this that Department 56 sells as an example. If you make the hole big enough, you can use the clips, which are caught on the wire, right here, and clip it into place. But you're going to have to elevate the house by putting something so that you have elevation for the cord and the clips itself. Other option is you can just get an LED version, that don't get hot in 3 volts, and just lay it on the inside. I would still keep this at 3 volts. You go to 120 volts and just put a standard bulb in there, it's going to generate too much heat inside this, and it's not designed for that much heat. And don't forget, you still got fiber optics and wires in here, and the fiber optics aren't glass, they're acrylic. They melt. So I would highly recommend, if you're going to do a bulb conversion, to use a low powered bulb. Maybe a 6 volt one, because they're more readily available, and even the 12 volt LEDs are pretty available. But I would not go anything higher than that. So I'm going to fire this thing back up, make another mess, and I'm going to cut out this entire bottom. And then we'll go through the repair process at that point. So I'm going to make a mess, and then I'm going to grab the vacuum and vacuum it up, because again, this is a saw. It's a spinning saw, and this turns into just dust. And I just had a pile of it on the bench, and I went and got the vacuum to suck it up, because yeah, it was pretty big pile. But let's move some stuff and get this process started. Be back again in just a few moments after we get this thing cut open and see what we're going to do. Since both resistors melted, I'm probably going to go ahead and use the 2 waters just to be safe. I have no idea why they melted, unless the person used the wrong power supply. I didn't get that info. It don't matter. We're going to get it fixed. We're going to get it to light back up. But I'm also going to search and find out what color those lights are supposed to be. So I'll be back in just a few. Okay, I have now cut the bottom more off, or made a bigger hole. Now you can see better in there. Look at that. I also removed the LED from the fiber optics, since you can't see it because it's covered. This was broken inside the heat shrink, and here's the LED. And see that black spot right there? That's an exploded LED, and half of the other ones are that way. The other ones are probably just burnt and they don't light up anymore. So anyhow, I did contact the owner of this and asked what did it do? What were the light colors? And he sent me a still shot and a short, couple second long video. All these windows glow when they're lit up, and I'll try and demonstrate real fast with a flashlight here. Ooh. So we know why they have so many lights pointing in different directions. It's because they were just making the base glow. Then there's this heat shrink section, which has the fiber optics right here. And this had this large bulb. He said it was like red, blue, white, or something of that nature. It was a color changing light. And wow, that thing got so hot when it popped, it actually cracked the lens. That's pretty amazing. So I went through my LEDs, and I have a slow rotate LED that we can put in its place. So it's going to go red, green, transition into blue. So it's going to transition through the colors. There's white, and then it goes back to green, and then red. So we stick this in the fiber optics. The wreaths that have the fiber optics will glow. So we have a way to fix the color changing section. And I was looking, I don't have any what they call straw hat or flat top LEDs that are really bright. So all the ones I have are really dim, and when I put one in here to test, it doesn't add a lot of light to make the windows light up. So I was looking at using these. These are a yellowish color. They even say yellow on the bag. But they're bigger and brighter, but they're squares. So I just soldered 2 of them for the hot and the negative, and I can just cut the other 2 off or cap them off. They're going to provide the most light to make the body on all the windows glow like they're supposed to. But now that I cut the bottom off, you can see the rings, like right here, that are suspending all the lights. There is 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 2 going through one in the back, 2 going through one on the front, and then 1 on each side. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm just going to cut the wires and remove all the wiring and then rerun it back through with those lights. And it's going to be a tedious process because at the same token, I don't want to break any more fiber optics than I already broke. There are a few that are broke. You can see them right on the top there. And that could be from the vibration of cutting this out. That could be from age, bouncing, shipping, any number of things can cause fiber optics to break. They're relatively fragile. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to snip the solder connections here and then fish the wires out using thin tweezers or needle nose or both, depending on how it goes. Pull them all out, solder new lights on, test each light before I do it, feed them back through, and then resolder them to the connection and to the resistor, which, like I said, I'm probably going to end up using the 2 waters just to ensure we have good heat. Remember, there are like 30 and 20, so I do have 20s and I do have 33s, but that is for the original lighting that's in here. These lights can handle more power than these lights, and that slow rotating RGB light right there also can handle more power than some of the older ones. So I'm not going to put in the exact resistors. I'm going to test them and see which resistor it actually requires to run this house at 3 volts. I'm also going to recontact the owner and verify that they're actually using a 3-volt power supply. If I find out they're using like a 12, which is the most common mistake that I come across, then I'll ask them if they want to use a 3-volt or if they want to use the 12, in which case the resistor in here would have to be increased to compensate for the higher voltage. So I need to get a little bit more information before I go into the completed wiring process. Then once that's done, I can glue the bottom back on and then put a new sheet of felt on it for them. That way it looks pretty. And this original cut line I made on the original glue path, I can fill that with glue as well and smooth it or wait till it gets hard and scrape off the excess so it's a smooth bottom, and then put the felt pad on. So that's the process I'm going to go through. But before I do anything, I want to verify the power supply. When I sent him the email, I forgot to ask him about his power supply. And that's very, very, very important because that determines what resistor I'm going to use. Resistors, plural, since I'm going to use a minimum of 2. If I feel that 6 of these is getting too hot on the one resistor, I might do 3 and 3. So it's less heat going through that resistor, less current to make the resistor hot. So I just want to do this brief showing of what's been done and where we're at on the Disney Light Up City Hall. And hopefully we get this thing done soon. so I can get it back out to them. I'll be back in a few once I get a response on my email. Okay, we're back with the Disney house here. Here's all the broken LEDs. There's a pile of them, and the burnt resistors, and all the wires. Let's see. You can kind of see one of the LEDs is in pieces. This resistor has been blackened. This one has a burn hole in it. That's pretty cool. LEDs are generally supposed to be clear, like that, not black or brown or tan. And so all the broken, and every one of those lights is bad. Even the ones like this that are clearish, under, you probably can't see it, but there's a little black spot right there where they popped. It's not as big as like these, where these got really hot before they popped. So, anyway, everything's been removed, including the wires, because the wires are melted from that one resistor. Just start from scratch. So I took some LED wire. I cut it to a little bit longer than that, just give me a little play. It was about a ½ an inch longer than those wires. And I just pre-soldered them to the LEDs. So this LED is the color changing LED, which will have this resistor right here, which is a 1 watt. And this 1 watt is 10 ohms. And then all the other LEDs will have a 2 watt, which is this one, which is 100 ohms. So there's the LEDs and the heat shrink. The heat shrink is going to go over the light and then connect it to the fiber optic right here, so it can point down and make the outside lights light up with the fiber optic pieces. So what I've done, I said I pre-soldered all the LEDs. You can see them in there. There you go. And then I fished them through their loops. I haven't stripped the ends yet to do the rest of the soldering. All the LEDs except for 2 are blue-red, red being hot, blue being ground or negative, and the other ones are green-black, which green is the hot and black is the negative. That's just because I used a 4-strand wire and just cut it into 6-inch sections. So let's try and get this thing finished up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this resistor down so I can solder it to the incoming power lug. I'm just going to put a little flux on it. Grab my solder. And I'm just going to pre-tin it. I'm going to add some fresh solder to the incoming power lug, because I did remove the old solder from it when I paused the camera. It's stuff that I've done before. If you watch previous videos, you just clean it off. You take it, you get it hot, you remove the old solder, and then we add fresh. Now let's solder the new resistor in, like so. Now the lead is really long on the other end, and we'll take care of that once we get all these wires stripped. So I have this soldered to the positive, and now we just need to take all these wires and then solder them to this the silver piece right here. The way they did this one was they balled them all up and then soldered them, and then they balled them all up and soldered them, and we might just end up doing the same thing, just depending on space and patience. So first I'm going to do is split the, it's basically zip wire, so I can separate the two colors. So I'm just taking a pair of flush cutters and snipping them right down the center where they're adhered to each other. Doesn't matter what color wires you use, as long as you know which is which, and then you're good to go. Now this is standard LED wire. It does come in a couple of different sizes, but the standard size is what you usually find online. I think it's 28 gauge. It's the same size as the wire over there. He said I'm just not using the wire over there because some of them have melted sections of insulation due to the fact that those resistors got really hot. Alright, so I've snipped them all. Now I'm just going to pull them farther apart than the length of my pliers, because the one wire we're going to solder directly to the resistor, and the other wire is getting soldered directly to the negative of the power port. And just so you know, fishing the wires into their individual loops on the inside here, I used those long thin needle nose, and I did use a set of tweezers to help so I wouldn't break any of the fiber optics outside of the ones that are already broken. And we just go through and we're just going to strip off a little over 1/8 of an inch of wire. Now if you bundle them or stick them all together, you might have to do more than that, but we're going to see how it works. The less exposed wire, the less likely for a short. Usually 1/4 inch is all you need if you're going to bundle them or twist them together on average. But it does depend on the type of wire you're using, whether it's stranded like this, or if it's a tin or aluminum wire. This is copper. This is this LED wire. When I bought it was more expensive because it's supposed to be 99.9% copper, and you know, it doesn't melt under a lighter, so I'm going to have to say it is. If you have aluminum wire, which is copper flashed or coated, if you hit it with a lighter, it'll actually melt or burn like a wick. Now, if you don't have a pair of wire strippers, you can do this with the side cutters or wire cutters, dikes, there's another name for them. And just be careful that you don't cut all the way through the wire. You can also do it with a razor blade, razor knife. I don't recommend using your teeth just because you have a chance of breaking a tooth. So let's not do, unless you have dentures and you don't care. Especially if you're like Odd Job from James Bond. Alright, so let's get all the hots and start putting them together and see what we got. Now probably I'm going to have to strip more. I was thinking about just soldering them all along in a straight line. And that might work too. There's plenty of room in here to do things. So I might do that. I'm going to bend it up. I'm going to flux the long lead, and I'm probably just going to solder straight up it. So instead of having one bundle, I'll just have individual solder points. We'll basically do the same thing. The resistor will be completely fine. Alright, so let's tin the resistor lead here. There we go. And I'm just going to tin all the hot wires. tweezers or needle nose definitely help with this part because they're so small. Now, if you cut the whole bottom out, you can probably get your whole hand in there, but I can't. Plus dexterity. I, like lots of other people, have neuropathy issues, and it affects my hands. So sometimes holding the small stuff doesn't work so well, but that's why we invented tools as a society, to make our lives easier. So use the tools. And there's one guy missing. Oh, he's all the way down here. Let's re-wet the solder tip. So there's 6 lights. I got 2 greens, 4 reds. So we got all 6. And I'll show you what I did when I said I just made it up. Oh, the whole length. You can see the resistor lead. I have it sticking in the middle of nowhere and it's void, and I just did a little solder joint in each one instead of balling it. I am going to have to ball the negative unless I put a piece of copper off that I can do the same thing, but I am just going to ball the negative wires together. So I'm going to do that next. And then I'll probably test it to make sure we're good, because Murphy will eventually make its way in and make things more difficult. So matter of fact, just before I started, I watched a thing on Murphy's Law talking about what the 4 or 5 stages of Murphy's Law. So it was kind of interesting. It's been a long week, and it's only Wednesday. So, if you're watching this part, there is going to be a delay in videos, as I will not be here. I have to take care of some stuff. I had a family member die a couple days ago, so that's why there was only 1 video last week instead of 2 like I was trying for. And I'll be gone for 5-6 days. So I'm not going to be able to film or work on any projects, which will put me behind, but it is life, and that's how it works. And 1 more to strip. So but if y'all have to email me for something, I can still try and respond to the emails. It's just my timing will be a little slower. Alright, so now we have all the negatives stripped to about 1/4 inch. And now we're going to bring them together, make a wire bouquet, and then we're going to twist them to make a relatively fat wire so I can solder them to the ground. Do not solder these in advance because you won't be able to twist them and they won't stay together. Just to help with adhesion, I'm going to put a little flux on it. And we're going to let the flux soak in and let the solder soak all the way through all the strands. Make a nice solid silverish spike of color, or excuse me, a spike for soldering, spike of color. And I'm going to take off the end of the resistor lead that we don't need. And we just got to feed it to the negative. Now on this one, the negative post for that power port is the post that's on the top. There's a post on the left, which is where I soldered the resistor, which is hot. There's a post on the top, which is the negative, and then there's a post on the right, which does absolutely nothing. It's just there as an anchor point if it's soldered into like a circuit board. Need to get some solder onto the back post. So there we go. And there we go. Where's that flashlight? Right there. You can kind of, there you go. You should be able to see it pretty good. Now, we need to put 3 volts in this to make sure all these lights work. Click. Turn on the machine. Set this thing for 3. Now I did message the person who owns this piece, and he said there's a really good chance that he put the wrong power supply in here. I'm going to say it's probably a 100% chance, only for the fact I've never seen this many LEDs explode before. There you go, look at that. Alright, so now we got to do this guy. So this one I did the same thing. Where'd that resistor go? Can't see it behind the house. I pre-soldered on the lead. The lead's too long for this one, but too much wire is better than too little wire, because you can always shorten the wire. You can extend wire technically, but at the same token, if you extend wire, you would have to protect the solder joint or connection. That's a brittle point in the connection that can break or corrode. So too much is better than too little. So I'm going to do the same thing with this. I'm going to trim this down, but I'm not going to trim it down as far. I'm going to go about halfway, and I'm going to cut it off. And I'm going to, same thing, I'm going to pre-tin the side I'm going to be using. So a little flux. Solder, so, and now we're going to solder it to the same side that we soldered the other one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little hook on it, and this is just so I can pull it against, so I just bent it a little, pull it against the tab to give it a little bit more surface area for soldering, as well as I can keep tension on it. So as it's cooling down, I might keep doing it with my fingers. That's what I got tools for. While it's cooling down, I can keep tension on it and allow the solder to do its job. There we go. As you can see, right there. Now you can see it almost touches where the fiber optics go. That's why I said this is way too long. But I'd rather have my lead started than not. So now I'm going to slide the yellow heat shrink over the black heat shrink. I don't have black in this size. The color doesn't really matter. Yeah. And then this will go all the way in until it hits the fiber optics. Like so, and then we're going to heat shrink it. Normally I use a lighter. People who watch me know that I usually use a lighter and do it. But because this is inside the house, and I don't want to melt the wires I just did, nor do I want to melt the acrylic fiber optics, I'm going to use the heat pen. Also, it gives me a little bit more control, because I have to keep tension, forward motion on this to keep the LED up against those fiber optic strands. Just waiting for it to get warm. Should be up to temperature here in a second. My fingers are starting to burn. Now, do not mistake that this isn't fire. It'll still melt the fiber optics just as easy as the fire will, especially at the temperature that I'm running it at, which is 235 degrees Celsius. That way it's fast. There you go. Sorry, I didn't have it. It has a reed switch in the unit, a magnetic one, and it wasn't seated, so it wasn't turning off. Right now it's in the cool down process, and then it'll turn completely off. So the black is the negative, and it is, of course, too long, which is fine. Too much wire, again, is better than too little. And we're going to strip off the end. I'm going to do the negative first, and then I'm going to come back and do the positive. Now, because I want this to make sure I get good adhesion, I'm going to just tin this just like I did when I did that bundle, and then we're going to solder it to the negative post. Alright, so she's soldered on. Just want to make sure nothing's touching. Yeah, I got a good gap. Okay, we're good. The machine will turn off probably in about 30 seconds. And now we're going to cut the hot wire. And I'm also going to cut back the resistor now. Same thing, I'm going to do about 50%. There we go. Now the machine is off. Okay, that's pre-tinned. Now technically, if you have enough flex or you have a long lead resistor like this, you could do it without the wire. But I wanted to use a little bit of wire so it has motion. This is going to have to get shipped back, so it's going to bounce. If I use the rigid LED connection, the ports, the leads, that come off of it, and I use the rigid lead from the resistor, there's no flex, but the copper wire flexes, so bouncing, moving, it's less likely to break because it won't be brittle. Whereas the solid connection, especially since it's got to go back across the country, there's a good chance it might break. All right, so we have hopefully everything good. So I'm going to turn off the soldering iron, and we're going to turn the power back on. That probably helps if I connect both sides. There we go. You can see the light glowing through the yellow. So let's push this inside. And I'm gonna go turn off some lights here. Make sure everything works like it's supposed to before we glue the bottom back on. All right. So you can see the wreaths. Now, the LEDs are going to have to be adjusted a little because they're not pointing in the right directions. Not a problem. That way the windows glow like they're supposed to. Soldering them, they have relocated themselves. And also, once you get them to where you have them, you can put a dab of hot glue on them where they go through those wire loops. So that way they don't move. There we go. Now the windows look better. It's really dark on the camera. It's a lot darker on the camera than it is in person. Let me kill this last ingress of light here. Yeah, see, like this shows almost no light right here. Yeah, well, you can't see it because you can't see my finger. So it shows no light here. It's lit. So the camera is not picking it up very well, but you can pick up the wreaths really well because the fiber optics really show the light. The house might be slightly dimmer than original. It's hard to tell, but it does look good. I actually think it doesn't look bad. It's not overpowering and allows the wreaths to show their light. So how's the back look? The only thing you see in the back is the LED right here, which I can fix that so you don't see the LED reflecting through the doorway. You can use a dark insulation versus yellow, which again, I don't have any black in that size, I'm out, but I can just use a piece of electrical tape and wrap it. Lights are coming back. There we go. So, this is the Light Up City Hall from Disney. How to replace and repair all the LED lights inside of it. And that's what it looks like. So now all I have to do is fix the glow that shines through the back, which we'll just use some of that to do that. And then I'm going to put some hot glue. I'm going to get it hot, of course. I'm going to put a dab on the rings. Then I'm going to glue the bottom in, and then I'm going to put some felt on it. But that is it. If you watch the Lemax videos, you've seen how I've reassembled the bottoms. This is just a jigsaw. I just got to take these big pieces, get them glued in, and then right about where they go, put a bead and hold it, and then fill in the next one, hold it, and then fill the bead for the gap of the saw. This thing. So, and then I have some stick-on felt, so I will clean this off. The fitsies from the original felt. Sandpaper works great for that. It's even do it when it's got the glue on the bottom, and any imperfections in the glue, it'll take that off too. Clean it off with some sandpaper, and then use the self-adhesive felt, stick it on, and then use a sharp razor knife and go around the border, and you're done. Very simple, very easy. The adhesive felt I get at Michael's. It's like 67 cents a sheet on sale, and I think it's 99 cents a sheet off sale, or $1.25 now, New Year. But that's where I get my stick-on felt, and the hot glue is Amazon. It's the SureBonder. If I didn't mention it before, I use SureBonder for all my hot glue. I've tried lots of different hot glues, and SureBonder is the best. Now, if you make a mistake, it is also harder to remove because it is really, really strong hot glue. This thing has to get really hot to allow it to melt, because I guess it has a slightly higher melting point, which means that it'll hold things longer, especially when you live out in the desert like I do, and it's 120 in the shade, and if you store these in a shed or an attic, it could be 300 degrees in there. Normal hot glue will get tacky and come apart. This stuff, the Surebonder, not the gun, the Surebond, this thing, it works really good. So, but I think that covers everything. I'll link below the big fat resistor kit. I'll link below basic LEDs, the slow rotating one, as well as the ones I use are just basic kits of LEDs that come with multiple colors in them. I'll link to some Surebonder if you want to use it. If I can find the sticky felt from Michaels, I'll put a link to that too. I don't know if it's on their website. It probably is, but I'll check. But we'll put all the links for all this. I'll put a link for LED wire if you don't have any. If you're normally like I do, so I have a bad motor, which if you watch a lot of the videos, they're usually always bad, and they get the long pigtails, I will keep the pigtails because this is the same as LED wire. It's just that this is a cheaper grade. The stuff I use is 100%, 99% copper, and this is usually copper flashed aluminum. Nonetheless, if you have this, there you go. That's why it's the Random Junk channel. I keep random junk, and I'm able to use it to fix other things. Upcycling is a more modern word for it. But other than that, I think we got it. We got 6 amber LEDs. We got 1 color changing. Resistors aren't even anything above room temperature, so they're not getting hot, which they shouldn't. Now, if you overpower them, they will, of course, but at 3 volts, these things are not going to get hot. These guys right here, this one, and this one, just so you know, this one is probably a 1/2 watt, and this one is also probably a 1/2 watt. This one actually might be a 3/4 watt, or a 1 watt of the old style, the new 1 watts are fatter. But these are also higher powered resistors than standard 1/4 watt or 1/8 watt. So just to give you a size reference, you know what I'm talking about. This little guy is an 1/8 watt resistor. You can see the size difference. And then you can really see the size difference. So diameter of the resistor is how much heat it can dissipate before it burns. And big fat ones usually can go good temperatures. But if they start to do this, you got a problem. You either have a short or you use the wrong adapter. Luckily with this piece, if you have this piece or similar pieces from the Disney line that are non-circuit board style, you can fix them. And you can change the colors. I think I used a deeper orange than they had originally. I couldn't tell from the picture or pictures what shade. So, but let's say you want to fix this house and you want the windows to be really bright, put white lights in it. You want to be darker, put the deep orange in it. If you want it to be spooky, you're going to rehab it to Halloween. Turn them red or green. Imagination. So, but anyhow, enough of the rambling. I'm going to go ahead and get this thing glued on, set, cleaned, adhered with some new felt, packaged, and sent back to its owner. So until the next one, which might be delayed a little bit, have a good one.